Moving on to some of those big signings we started talking about with Kai Havertz and Timo Werner. I remember you doing your predicted 11 for this season, like your dream lineup for the season, quite a few months back. And I remember you putting Kai Havertz in that 11 as a number 10 in a 4-2-3-1. And I remember at the time people saying, "Oh, we're not going to sign Kai Havertz," and I was quite doubtful at the time. Yeah. I don't know if you've got any sort of inside information or you've got Marina's number, so you can sort of like dial up and sort of say we're going in for Kai Havertz. I mean, Havertz to me is the biggest surprise of this window, simply because I didn't think his type of like the midfield. If you're really prioritizing signings, I just didn't think he was going to be like a midfielder, creative midfielder was going to be a main priority this season, but. There's a sense this is an Eden Hazard level signing for Chelsea, and he can be the poster boy of Chelsea. He can really define his era at Chelsea, a bit like Hazard did. Yeah. What can you see Havertz offering to Chelsea moving forward? Because I think the potential is absolutely huge.
This is what I mean by the potential. It's huge. I think there's so many different talking points. Of course, signing a player like this who can literally play in so many different positions to a high level. I mean, playing out wide in midfield as a false 9-2, moving up front. I guess having him gives you that super dynamic fluidity. Sorry about that, in the final third that you want. And, obviously Kai is one of the profiled players that can bring that. With Havertz, I think he can be a special player. I think you look at his height, 6'2". He's really fast. He's really great in the air as well. He can play those like deft, lofted balls at the perfect weight. He can make those perfectly timed runs in behind. Maybe he's a bit more left-footed right now, but I definitely feel like he can even master his shooting technique game too. And on top of that, we're seeing a desire for him to press, work hard, defend for the team, which I think, how much more complete do you want to possibly be? It's kind of unfair at this point in time. So I do think that with Kai. Yeah, we can't even forget, shout out Alex Goldberg, the byline. Obviously, he had on, I think, Honigstein back in January. And of course, for a long time, it was all about Jadon Sancho. Now, even during that period, I was hearing things like there's a potential that his price is just so high that we're not even looking at him all the way back in that December, which was like looking like, obviously in hindsight, that was correct. And obviously, Havertz was obviously one that we've been following since last season. And obviously, I think, the byline were kind of the first ones to really just announce how concrete the interest was. And when that came, I kept hearing things too that really just supported claims that, okay, he was like the next number one big target that we are going to go after really hard. And that's why when I made the video, I just kind of got the vibe and sense that, okay, based on the money we have, based on, signing like your Werners and et cetera, and based on the fact that your other European rivals can't spend, I got the vibe that this was like a dead guarantee that we would be signing Kai. And considering, I know the negotiations were long, but, once you cover like transfer news for a while, you start to see certain patterns behind like, what certain quotes mean, what certain things are said, how things are going to play out. So then you can make educated guesses. And I think the moment that, obviously, it was obvious that Leverkusen were hoping to get Champions League football of some sort, because if they did, I'm sure Havertz would have cost an extra 20 mil straight. They would have got their original 100 mil valuation, but that was never the case because they messed up. And the minute that happened, you just felt like, okay, we are going to be getting our man. But, as I was saying, I'm just so surprised at just how reduced that fee was compared to the original price Leverkusen did want. So, this is a player similar to Hazard where there's a clear plan. And I think with Havertz's case, I think there's more of a plan and more of a willingness to obviously push through with things and really take us to that level compared to how it was when Hazard first signed for us. I mean, yeah, we signed, great attacking players like your Oscars, your Moseses, Schürrles, all these young guys. But, was there like a proper plan in the sense compared to how it is with this season? I don't think so. So I think that Havertz is in a better environment now that can probably take him to the next level compared to what Hazard was able to do, where, I'm going to sound controversial, but for me personally, I've always felt like Hazard was just naturally just a great player for the moment we signed him. Can you really say that his game went up like a different level from like his first debut season? I'm not too sure, to be honest.
I did get encouraged reading about from Simon Johnson in The Athletic after we signed him that it had been a long-term target. And I'm sure like there's so many players on a list at Chelsea that they're scouting, right? But I think that it wasn't just a luxury signing. It wasn't just a signing that, he became available. There was actually a plan that the club really sold the vision to Havertz. And as well, once again, Frank Lampard, once again convincing a player. But for me, it wasn't just a case of this is a great talent and people were rating him as like could be one of the top 3 players in the world in the coming years based on his potential.
Yeah.
But it was also, to me, like basics of Chelsea's midfielders lacked goals for a number of years now. And I know that Havertz very much developed the creative side of his game last season at Leverkusen, whilst the season before that he was much more goal-orientated. But I think that that's the thing for me Chelsea have desperately lacked. And I think Frank, as a coach, just naturally will look in that midfield and think, I need goals there, because you can't always be relying on, say, a Christian Pulisic or a Timo Werner. And I think another thing, as it links into the way Lampard wants to play, when you got a player like Timo Werner who drifts left, my worry when I was watching that preseason friendly was, okay, Timo drifts left, I think that's exciting, but my worry is, are there any players with the goal-scoring instinct to fill that position when Werner vacates it? And I think Havertz is going to be that player. You even saw glimpses on Monday where Mount hit a ball over to Havertz and he was making that run inside. And I think that once he gets accustomed to playing at Chelsea, I think there's going to be a serious player there that I think, and this is another thing on top of that, it's a simplistic comparison, but a bit like the way Costa and Fabregas, almost like the Spanish connection, helping Chelsea to a Premier League title. Do you think Havertz and Timo Werner can do similar, a Premier League or a Champions League maybe?
I think that is interesting. I think with obviously Costa and Cesc, maybe like the creative influence in the team was a lot more structured and more rigid compared to how it is right now. So I guess, yeah. But to be honest, man, I'd have to see some more games to really get a vibe. I just have this vision, which I've had for like many, like for a long ass time, to be honest, that it is going to be really fluid and it's going to be fully dependent on what happens in game. So this is the genius about having players that can play in different positions very easily, is that they'll kind of understand when to do that themselves without having to be fully coached. And I think that's the difference between like, top great players and good ones, is that extra, mental ability to know, how to handle yourself and what to do. So I don't know. I see combinations like, I don't know, Ziyech and Werner. I can see that. I can see combinations like, Kai and Werner, Kai and Ziyech. I can see all these different ones that, I don't know. I'd have to see a few more games first before I can really find out who's like the main guys.